Denver 7 On Demand is brought to you by Ferguson and BAC Appliance Center, the best in bath, kitchen, and lighting for your home.
I'm Tom Mustin with the latest from Denver 7. Denver teachers and the district could negotiate until late tonight in hopes of ending their strike. They've been meeting since 10 o'clock this morning. Both sides seem to be taking this seriously and appear eager to get something done. We'll send you an alert through the Denver 7 app the moment negotiations wrap up for the evening. It's been more than 6 years since Colorado voted to legalize marijuana, and yet lawmakers admit they still don't know how to verify if someone is too high to drive. Tonight, Denver 7's Jennifer Kovaleski is going 360 on our current marijuana DUI law and the lack of science supporting it.
In Green, Colorado, where consuming marijuana is legal and celebrated every year with a giant cloud of smoke in Civic Center Park, smoking weed and driving is not so cool. But proving a driver is too high to drive is complicated. And this is where our 360 on drug driving begins.
How can we measure that?
Starting with the lawmaker behind a bill that would change our DUI laws.
Truly, the problem is, once they make that stop, what is the proof of impairment?
Current law in Colorado says any driver whose blood tests higher than 5 nanograms of THC is too high to drive. But State Representative Hugh McKean says there's no science to back that up.
Our police officers are doing their jobs, our DAs are doing their jobs, and yet they don't get convictions because there's not good science behind it.
On top of the lack of science, traces of marijuana stay in the body for a long time, and existing tests can't say whether a person was using that day or that month.
This is a really tough question.
McKean introduced House Bill 1146 as one possible solution. It would throw out the 5 nanogram threshold and give law enforcement full discretion to decide if a driver is impaired, using roadside sobriety tests, combined with any presence of a drug in their system. McKean believes until the science catches up, this is a way to address the problem now.
Exactly what we trust our officers with right now today. We trust them to go and be patrolling and paying attention to the way people are driving and to make that traffic contact with that driver.
But opponents of the bill came out screaming, which is why McKean says they already killed it.
We call it postponed indefinitely, which is a really nice way of saying we hope a gentle death, but it never really is.
The whole thing was just terrible.
Larissa Boulevard runs the Cannabis Consumers Coalition. From her perspective, this bill was nothing short of a social justice nightmare and says could lead to profiling of minorities.
Would give way too much power to law enforcement when they have a history here in this state and in this city of abusing that power.
Sorry.
Chad Britton and his family have experienced the pain of losing someone because of a drug driver.
4 or 5 other kids in the car with him, and they were all using as well. And they all told him that he was too high to drive.
The teen who killed Britton's nephew was only sentenced to 2 years in juvenile corrections. He wants the state to pump the brakes on legal weed entirely until it can find a better way to identify drivers who are too high to drive.
The drug was legalized before there was any way to test for sobriety on it.
Universities and local law enforcement are already testing out new technology, from marijuana breathalyzers to apps that test brain function. But while we wait for the science to catch up, all sides seem to agree the current laws for marijuana impairment aren't working.
Tourists coming here, I don't want them eating edibles and then driving, and I don't want them doing a dab and driving.
The industry wants to make sure that we get impaired drivers off the road. Police officers want to make sure that when they go to court, they have good science behind what they're saying is impairment. And so all of those things led to this bill, but this bill isn't quite it.
Jennifer Kovaleski, Denver 7.
Meanwhile, new numbers out tonight show that Colorado's marijuana industry is growing stronger. Final figures show $1.5 billion spent on pot last year. That adds up to about $247 million in taxes used for state purposes. In all, more than $900 million in revenue has been raised since weed was first legalized. And tonight, Colorado lawmakers have shot down a bill that would have added hunter safety courses to middle schools. The original version called for this to be mandatory. Late today, it was tweaked to make it optional instead. Either way, lawmakers weren't having it. But here's the thing. A lot of you thought this was a strong idea, so much so we thought it was worth taking a deeper dive. You can weigh in right now on the Denver 7 Facebook page or by emailing us at 360@thedenverchannel.com. Then tune in tonight at 10 as we give it the full 360 treatment. Well, last week it looked like flu season was slowing down. Tonight it's clear that is not the case. New numbers from the state show more than 1,800 people have been sick enough to stay at a hospital. That's up 170 from last week. There have also been another 2 outbreaks reported in long-term care facilities, bringing that total to 20. Children 4 and under remain the most at risk. Thankfully, the vaccine does appear to be a strong match for the virus, and it's not too late to get your shot. Anti-fracking activists have won the first round in a fight to stop drilling in a Broomfield neighborhood. Today, a federal judge ordered that no development be allowed in the Wildgrass subdivision until more hearings can be held. All this goes back to 1930s era law known as forced pooling. Basically, it means that if a neighbor agrees to drilling, an oil and gas company can also access that land under your property just as long as you're compensated. This battle is just beginning. The final ruling could have a big impact on how the oil and gas industry does business. And from the First Alert Weather Center, here's a check of your forecast. Pretty nice tomorrow. Windy and mild, rather. 57 degrees. Then mountain snow on Valentine's Day, the high of 53. And then chances of snow from Friday to Tuesday with a low of 5 degrees and a high of just 25 on Tuesday. This has been your Denver 7 on-demand update. Thanks for joining us. Check back here later tonight for another update and download the Denver 7 app for breaking news and alerts. I'm Tom Luston. Have a great day.